They will never say it out loud, but deep down they know the truth. They lost. Every scheme, every weapon, every whisper they once used against you has turned to dust. And here you are still standing. The storm that tried to bury you is over. You will never have to walk through that same battlefield again. Look around. Do you notice the silence? It doesn't sound like the heavy silence you once felt in the middle of the fight. The silence that made you wonder if you'd even survive. No, this silence feels different. This is the stillness that comes after a war has ended. It's the hush that makes your enemies nervous because they realize something they never wanted to admit. They no longer have any power over you. They thought you would be broken, invisible, forgotten. They expected to write the final chapter of your story in defeat. But the opposite happened. You survived. And not only survived, you came out stronger, sharper, more unshakable than ever before. That's why they watch you from the shadows now, scrolling, asking questions, keeping tabs. They want to know how you're still here, how you walked through everything meant to crush you and still rose higher. And the truth is, they can't figure it out, because what they built to destroy you only revealed who you really are. Chosen ones, before I go further, let me pause and say this thank you. If you're here listening to this message, you're not here by accident. You're part of something bigger, a divine movement, a voice that connects chosen ones all over the world. When you like, when you comment, when you subscribe, it's not just engagement. It's how we strengthen the chain so no chosen one ever feels alone in their journey. Hear me clearly, the shift has already happened. The ending you prayed for has arrived. That chapter has closed. That door has slammed shut, and it will never open again. The universe has cleared your path and written a new story with your name on it. The people, the patterns, the pain, they can scream, but they can't drag you back into what you've already outgrown. So here's what I need you to do as a declaration. If you're ready to leave the old season behind, type these words in the comments. It's done. Don't just let this be another video you watch and move on from. Let it be your confirmation. Let it be your moment of release. Because the chosen one, the worst is behind you, and the best is already on its way. Chosen ones, let me speak this over you right now. The chains that once held you have rusted, the lock is broken, and the cage they tried to keep you in has collapsed. What once trapped you cannot hold you anymore. For years it felt like you were stuck in the same painful loop. Different faces, same betrayal. Different jobs, same sabotage. Different seasons, same heartbreak. You asked yourself, why does this keep happening to me? And the truth is, it wasn't just bad luck. It was design. The enemy doesn't create, it recycles. Darkness takes the same wound, dresses it in a new disguise, and tries to keep you spinning until you collapse. But here's the good news, that cycle is dead and you broke it. They threw everything at you, betrayals, losses, heartbreaks, disappointments, and yet you refused to fold. You didn't give them the reaction they wanted. You starved the cycle. And when you stop feeding a cycle with fear, hopelessness, or surrender, it runs out of fuel. That's exactly what happened. The system collapsed because you outlasted it. Think about it. How many times did they expect you to give up for good? How many nights did they assume you wouldn't rise again? But you kept getting back up. That is the endurance of a chosen one. And here's the revelation: survivors carry immunity. Once you've endured the storm, you can't be destroyed by the same storm again. It's like a vaccine. Your spirit has the blueprint now. You recognize the red flags before they even wave. You can smell betrayal before it even reaches your door. You can sense sabotage before it touches your life. That's why the enemy is furious, because the old tricks don't work anymore. They cannot use the same poison twice. What once destroyed you doesn't even scratch you now. Let me ask you this: have you noticed how differently you react now? What used to shatter you barely shakes you anymore. The lies you once believed now sound empty. The traps that once caught you now look obvious. That's not by accident, that's transformation. You are not who you were when the cycle began. You are stronger, you are sharper, You carry a spiritual immunity that terrifies those who tried to break you. So stand tall in this truth: the chains are rusted, the cage is gone, and the cycle is over for good. The enemy has run out of moves. Their favorite weapon has been disarmed. And every time they see you smile, every time they hear your name, every time they realize you're still standing, it burns them inside. That is your victory. That is your revenge. The cycle is finished, and you will never be trapped in it again. Chosen ones, listen carefully. The contract of your pain has been cancelled once and for all. Every ounce of suffering you carried had an assignment, a start date, and an expiration date. Even if you didn't see the fine print while you were in the middle of it, the truth is it was there all along. Pain pretended it would last forever. It whispered lies that told you, this is your life now, this is permanent, this is who you are. But pain lied. The contract has expired and it has no authority to touch you again. I want you to picture this. Imagine a courtroom you couldn't see. Every tear you cried, every sleepless night, every whispered prayer of desperation became evidence the enemy tried to use against you. It stacked files, it argued its case, it tried to convince the universe that you were sentenced to misery without end. But here's the revelation: pain never had unlimited authority. And the moment you absorbed the lessons, the moment your spirit was forged into something stronger, sharper, and more unshakable, the gavel came down. Case dismissed. The file is closed. No appeals, no reopening. Your suffering lost its legal claim. And yes, I know you've asked yourself, why did it last so long? Why didn't it end sooner? That's because some lessons can't be rushed. Strength isn't microwaved. Wisdom isn't instant. There were parts of you that had to be forged in the fire. Endurance had to be proven. And once the process was complete, once you carried the authority that suffering could never take back, the contract dissolved. That's why you feel lighter now. That's why you sense that strange shift you can't fully explain. It's the sound of locks changing. It's the sound of doors closing behind you forever. Think about it this way. Imagine trying to use an expired ticket at a gate. No matter how much you argue, the scanner rejects it. That's your life now. The enemy can try to wave old wounds in front of you, but the system won't let them through. It's denied. It's void. It's finished. The contract is shredded and your spirit has been stamped with freedom. And here's what you must remember. Your scars are not open wounds anymore. They are warnings, signposts, reminders that you've already survived. The very things that once broke you have now become evidence of your authority. So when your mind whispers, what if it happens again? Remind yourself it can't. Not like before. The keys have been taken back. The locks have been changed. The future cannot look like the past because the contract is over and done. So walk boldly, chosen one. The pain that once claimed ownership over your life has been evicted permanently. It has no legal standing, no authority, no access. You're not just free, you're immune. Your scars now speak louder than your suffering ever did. And because the contract has been shredded, you will never have to live that same nightmare again. Chosen ones, let me take you even deeper. What you went through wasn't just about you. That's why your pain felt heavier than anyone else's. That's why the weight didn't make sense, why you asked yourself over and over, why do I feel like I'm paying for things I never did? It's because you were carrying more than your own story. You were standing in as the breaker. You weren't just fighting for your own freedom. You were the wall between past destruction and future generations. Families don't just pass down names, traditions, or eye color. They pass down wounds. Poverty that clings like smoke. Relationships that collapse on repeat. Sickness that moves from one generation to the next. Silent battles no one talks about, but everyone feels. These are what we call generational chains, and they are designed to keep repeating until someone strong enough decides to snap them in half. And chosen one, that someone was you. Imagine a relay race where every runner before you dropped the baton. The baton kept rolling forward, waiting for someone to pick it up and finally finish the race. It landed in your hands. That's why the betrayals, the breakdowns, the endless heaviness seemed multiplied. Because you weren't just running for yourself, you were carrying the weight of generations. But here's the power: you didn't collapse. You survived. You carried what others could not, and by enduring it, you ended the cycle. The curse lost its grip. The debt was paid in full. Chosen ones, hear me clearly. Your suffering was not punishment. It was the down payment on a future no one before you could afford. That's why your enemies can't stand you. You ended something they thought would last forever. You stood up in the middle of storms designed to break an entire bloodline, and you refused to die in it. Because of that, those who come after you will never taste the same bitterness. They will walk a clearer road, because you walked the hard one first. So now your scars aren't just proof of your survival, they're proof of generational freedom. You reset the story for your entire lineage. The baton has crossed the finish line in your hands. The contract of generational pain has been stamped, paid in full. And the future will look different because you stood your ground. Chosen ones, let this truth sink in. You didn't just survive for yourself. You broke curses. You silenced patterns. You rewrote the history of your bloodline. That is why you were chosen. That is why the battle was so heavy. And that is why your enemies lost. The chains are broken, the curse is finished, and you are free. Chosen ones, here's the revelation. The poison they used against you cannot harm you anymore because you turned it into power. Everything they poured into you, every drop of venom, every humiliation, every betrayal, what was meant to kill you has become fuel burning in your favor. You didn't just survive what they did, you transformed it. That's why the cycle broke. That's why they can't trap you the same way again. Think of it like this: when a snake releases venom into the body, that venom can kill, but the same venom, when refined, is used to create medicine. And chosen one, that's exactly what you did. You took what was supposed to destroy you and turned it into wisdom, discernment, resilience. The betrayal that should have made you bitter gave you sharper vision. The shame that should have buried you became your shield. The loneliness that was supposed to crush you carved depth into your soul. You didn't just endure the pain, you transmuted it. Imagine a blacksmith working with broken metal. He throws it into the furnace and the fire screams against it. The metal bends, it melts, it suffers. But when it comes out, it's no longer weak or fragile, it's unbreakable. That's you. You went through the flames, but the fire did not consume you. Instead, it crowned you. It turned you into a weapon darkness cannot touch. The old version of you burned away in that furnace, and now the upgraded version has emerged, untouchable, unstoppable, unshakable. Let me ask you, have you noticed how the same words that once cut deep now bounce off like nothing? How do the same tricks that once fooled you look obvious? Now that's not luck, that's transformation. You've built immunity. Poison can't kill you when your system already knows how to turn it into medicine. That's why your enemies are furious. Their weapons are outdated. Their strategies are useless. The very tools they used against you have been dismantled and reforged into your armor. So, chosen ones, carry this truth with pride. You rewrote the rules of the battlefield. You flipped the script. You are no longer the vulnerable version they once preyed on. You are the forged version, the crowned version, the one who carries authority where wounds once lived. From now on, everything that comes against you must face the new you, the one who turned poison into power. And that's why you cannot be stopped. What once wounded you now empowers you. What once crushed you now fuels you. The fire that was sent to kill you only revealed your true strength. Chosen one, never forget this: you are not just a survivor. You are the living proof that poison can be turned into power. Chosen ones, let me tell you something powerful. They already fired their last bullet at you and you're still standing. That's why it felt like an all-out war with no pause, no breath, no mercy. It wasn't your imagination. It wasn't paranoia. The enemy threw everything they had, every weapon in their arsenal, hoping this would finally be the blow that ended you. That's why the season felt so heavy. That's why you wondered if you could survive one more hit. Because darkness doesn't have an endless supply of weapons, it recycles what works. And once a weapon fails, its power dissolves. So what did they do? They stacked their sharpest arrows together, unleashed their deadliest strikes in one concentrated season, believing that if they poured it all out, you would collapse. They thought you would never rise again. But Chosen One, you did. Think about this. An army fires its final round of ammunition, certain the battle is over. Smoke fills the air, silence follows, and then out of the rubble you rise. That's what happened to you. They gave it their best shot, their most vicious attack, and they missed. You walked out breathing, you walked out stronger, you walked out carrying the undeniable proof that you cannot be destroyed. And here's the revelation: if their strongest weapon couldn't stop you, nothing weaker ever will. If their last bullet didn't end you, then every dart that comes after will only expose how powerless they truly are. Their playbook is finished, their arsenal is empty, their so-called power has been proven fake. They bet everything on your downfall and they lost it all. Chosen Ones, do you understand the magnitude of this? What they planned as your burial turned into your unveiling. What they thought would silence you forever became the stage for your authority. They revealed their limits while you revealed your resilience. They showed their desperation and you showed your endurance. You are living proof that the worst already failed. So walk boldly, lift your head, breathe deeply, because the enemy doesn't get another last shot. They already fired it. They already missed. And you're still here, Chosen One, stronger, sharper, and unstoppable. Chosen Ones, let me declare this over. You have climbed too high for their hands to touch you. They keep reaching, clawing, trying to pull you back down, but their fingers only grab empty air. Why? Because you're no longer standing where they left you. Survival didn't just make you stronger, it relocated you. It elevated you. It shifted you into a space where their reach, their tricks, their arrows no longer land. Have you noticed it? The same insults that used to sting now bounce off you. The same temptations that used to pull you in no longer have a grip. The betrayals that once crushed you now barely scratch the surface. That's not coincidence, that's elevation. You've been moved. You're no longer fighting on the same battlefield where they once had authority. Picture it like this: when you were broken, vulnerable, unaware of your strength, it was like you were tuned into their frequency. Every dart found you, every cycle repeated, every wound reopened. But when you endured, when you kept standing, when you refused to quit, your frequency shifted. You no longer broadcast on their channel. Now their words sound hollow, their tricks look obvious, their arrows miss because you're not even there anymore. Chosen Ones, this is why life feels different now, even if you can't explain it. You've outgrown the battleground. You've been promoted to a higher place, a new dimension. Pain only thrives where weakness lives, but you've vacated that address. You've moved into an atmosphere where victory surrounds you and defeat cannot breathe. Let me ask you this. Have you wondered why the old struggles don't sting like they used to? It's because that version of you doesn't exist anymore. The one who could be broken by those same attacks has been left behind. You're not invisible, you're untouchable. You're not running, you're standing tall on higher ground. And those still trapped below are shooting arrows into an empty sky. So let them rage. Let them exhaust themselves clawing at shadows. They've lost access to you. They've lost the keys. They've lost the right to touch you. Chosen One, your survival didn't just prove your strength, it permanently shifted your position. You are no longer within their reach. You've climbed too high, and they can't bring you back down. Chosen Ones, here's the next revelation. Your spirit has grown antibodies against their poison. At the beginning, the trauma blindsided you. It pierced through hidden cracks you didn't even know existed. It struck you in places you didn't realize were weak. That's why it felt unbearable. That's why it shook you so deeply, because you didn't yet have the defense. But survival does not leave anyone the same, and you, Chosen One, came out transformed. Every wound you carried became a teacher. Every scar became a sensor. Every night of agony reprogrammed your spirit. What once slid in quietly now sets off alarms. What once pierced you now bounces off. You've built immunity. Think of your body when it fights off a deadly virus. The first strike nearly kills because your system isn't prepared. But once you recover, your body produces antibodies. The next time that same virus dares to show up, your system destroys it before it can spread. That's your spirit now. The trauma that almost broke you became the cure. You built resistance, you built discernment, you developed the ability to sense danger before it arrives. Have you noticed it? Betrayal feels obvious now even before the mask slips. Lies sound hollow before they even finish speaking. Manipulation sets off alarms before the trap is sprung. That's not paranoia, that's your spiritual immune system working. And this immunity terrifies the enemy, because their favorite weapons are predictable now. What once looked like a surprise attack is just a recycled trick you see coming a mile away. What used to knock you flat now feels like a minor nuisance. That's why you don't tolerate what you once excused. That's why you no longer ignore the signals you once brushed aside. Your spirit has been trained, sharpened, and fortified. Chosen ones, this is permanent. Once your soul has learned how to fight, it never forgets. You cannot be blindsided the same way again. You carry antibodies against betrayal, against manipulation, against destruction. Their arrows fall short, not because they stopped aiming, but because your spirit blocks them before they ever land. So lift your head with confidence. You are no longer defenseless. You are no longer vulnerable to the same poison that once broke you. Your scars are now shields. Your trauma has become your protection. Your spirit has grown antibodies, and that resistance cannot be taken away. Chosen one, you are permanently immune. Chosen ones, listen to me carefully. The deadliest blow they swung at you has now become the very stamp of your authority. The attack they thought would bury you forever has instead branded you with proof that you cannot be destroyed. Survival is never silent, it leaves a mark. And the mark you carry now is one that the unseen world cannot ignore. They threw their strongest weapon at you, convinced that it would end you once and for all. They sharpened their knives, aimed their arrows, and released their most brutal strike. By every calculation, you weren't supposed to get back up, but here you are, still breathing, still rising, still chosen. And because of that, the very blow meant to finish you has sealed your authority. It has declared to every realm, visible and invisible, that you are untouchable. Imagine a soldier returning from the battlefield. His uniform is torn, his body bears scars, but he walks in with his head high. People look at him and instantly know this one has faced fire and lived. That's you. The scar is not shameful. It's a badge. It's an eternal testimony that says, I walked through the fire, and the fire did not consume me. Chosen ones, do you feel it? You don't even have to prove your strength anymore. Your survival already speaks louder than your words. Darkness recognizes it. Demons know it. The very forces that tried to destroy you now bow to the seal you carry. The deadliest blow became your certification, your receipt of immortality. And here's the revelation: challenges will still come, but none will hit you with the same force again. The worst has already failed. The most vicious strike already missed. And once the deadliest weapon loses its power, every lesser weapon is meaningless. That's why you move differently now. That's why your presence carries quiet authority. You don't have to shout. You don't have to defend it. You wear it. You are branded by survival itself. So, chosen one, let this truth sink deep into your spirit. What was supposed to be your coffin has become your crown. The attack that was meant to erase you is now the signature of your authority. Their failure is your forever proof. Their last weapon became your eternal badge. And because of that, you will never again be owned, chained, or destroyed. You are untouchable, and that mark will follow you everywhere you go. Chosen ones, hear me loud and clear. You survived the death sentence they wrote for you. They dug your grave. They carved your name into the stone. They wrote the ending of your story with their lips, with their gossip, with their curses. They were so sure it was finished. But chosen one, you stood up and walked out of the grave they designed for you. Their prophecy was a lie. By every rule of logic, you weren't supposed to be here. The betrayal should have killed your trust forever. The losses should have crushed your will to keep moving. The wounds should have left you shattered beyond repair, but you defied it all. You rose through the ashes of what was supposed to bury you, and now your very existence mocks the expectations of your enemies. You are the contradiction they cannot explain. Imagine a building leveled by an explosion, dust everywhere, silence, nothing standing, and suddenly through the smoke one figure walks out untouched. That's you. They layered destruction upon destruction, certain it would silence you forever. But instead of breaking you, it branded you as untouchable. Have you noticed how people look at you differently now? Even those who don't know your full story sense it. There's a weight, an authority, a quiet power in your presence. Why? Because your survival speaks before you do. You are living evidence that their predictions failed, that their whispers were worthless, that their bets on your downfall never paid off. And here's the revelation: once darkness fails to bury you, it can never bury you again. They already played their strongest card. They already used their sharpest weapon. And it didn't work. Because it didn't work, you've crossed into a realm they can never reach. You are out of range. You are untouchable. Chosen ones, your survival is more than breath. It's defiance. It's victory. It's the undeniable stamp of immortality that says, I cannot be erased. So carry yourself with this truth. Every step you take, every breath you breathe, every dream you chase is proof that you survived the sentence they wrote against you. They lost. You lived. And because you lived, their failure will echo louder than their schemes ever did. Chosen ones, listen to this prophetic truth. The universe has already slammed the gavel on your case. What you endured did not go unnoticed. Every betrayal, every injustice, every tear you cried in the dark, none of it was lost. It was recorded. It was weighed. It was brought before the highest court of heaven. And now the ruling has already been made. Your suffering is over. Case closed. Do you wonder why it felt like your pain dragged on so long? It wasn't because you were forgotten. It was because the record was being completed. Every scar became evidence. Every sleepless night, every whispered prayer of God, I can't take this anymore, was documented. The case file had to be undeniable. And once the evidence was full, once heaven had every detail, the gavel came down. The chains broke. The permission for your suffering was revoked. Chosen one, let this sink in. Suffering always comes with an expiration date, but freedom lasts forever. Unlike the corrupt courts of man where verdicts can be appealed and cases reopened, the verdict over your life is final. No loophole, no reconsideration, no power in hell can overturn it. Imagine a thick folder stamped with bold red ink, closed. Do not reopen. That is your story now. What once stalked you has no legal right to return, so when fear whispers, what if it happens again, you need to remind yourself of the truth. It can't. The highest authority has already decided. The door is sealed. The file is closed. The verdict is irreversible. You're not walking in luck. You're walking in a freedom secured by divine law. And here's the revelation. Your survival isn't just testimony, it's evidence. Evidence that the strongest were not forgotten. Evidence that the chosen are always vindicated. Your very existence is proof that heaven defends its warriors. You are free not because your enemies let you go, but because heaven ruled in your favor. Chosen ones, step boldly now. The season is over forever. The gavel has fallen. The chains are broken. The verdict is in, and it says this: you are free, you are vindicated, and you will never go back to that prison again. Chosen ones, hear me. You didn't just pass the test, you were crowned through fire. What you went through wasn't random. It wasn't bad luck. It wasn't just a cruel season. No, it was initiation. It was preparation reserved for the few who are strong enough to carry the mantle of authority. Tests measure ability, but initiations change identity. And that's what happened to you. That's why your pain felt so targeted, so personal, so unrelenting. Because it wasn't just testing you, it was remaking you. You were being stripped of illusions, burned free of shallow comforts, and hammered into something unbreakable. Just like a sword forged on an anvil, every betrayal, every sleepless night, Every breakdown was the strike of a hammer. It wasn't punishment. It was a transformation. You were being refined into the crowned version of yourself. Think about it. Why did your pain cut so deep? Why did it seem so precise, as if it knew exactly where to hit? Because it was designed not to destroy you, but to strip away the weaker layers and reveal the core of who you really are. Initiation never feels easy. It feels like fire. It feels like death. But what comes out of that furnace is indestructible. And that's you now. And here's the revelation: no one is initiated twice. The furnace you walked through was a one-time price of entry. You'll never have to go back because you already crossed the threshold. You didn't just endure a season, you graduated into a higher realm where ordinary strength cannot go. That's why you move with quiet authority now. That's why your perspective has changed. You see differently. You discern differently. You carry yourself differently. Chosen ones, your scars are not wounds anymore. They are badges of authority. You didn't just survive the fire. You were crowned by it. Authority doesn't return to ashes. Once you've crossed over, there is no going back. You are no longer who you were before the storm. You are the crowned version, branded by fire, elevated beyond reach. So walk in it, own it. Let every step remind you you didn't just pass the test, you became the testimony. You are chosen, crowned, and untouchable. Chosen ones, let me open your eyes to this truth. They bankrupted themselves trying to bury you. Every plot, every scheme, every whispered lie, every hidden trap, it cost them something. Darkness doesn't fund its soldiers for free. It demands a trade. And while they thought they were trading your peace for their power, the reality is this: they were draining themselves, investing everything into destroying someone who could not be destroyed. This is why their attacks don't sting anymore. It's not because they suddenly grew kind or because they stopped hating you. No, it's because they're depleted. They spent all their energy, all their resources, all their sleepless nights watching you, obsessing over you, trying to stop you, and they failed. They poured out their life force into a war they could never win, and now they are empty. Think of it like an army that empties its arsenal fires. Every last weapon pours all its fuel into one final battle. When the smoke clears, they expect you to be gone, but instead, you're still standing, and they are starving, exhausted, and weaponless. Their alliances have crumbled under the weight of failure. Their words no longer carry venom. Their tricks look predictable, old, laughable. Chosen ones, this is your victory. Not only did you outlast them, but you also dismantled them. Every season they tried to bury you, only to dig their own pit deeper. Every curse they spoke drained their own breath. Every time they obsessed over your downfall, they were paying a price they could not afford. And now they face a brutal truth: they can't repeat what they did to you. They don't have the stamina. They don't have the resources. They don't even have the faith in themselves to try again. Do you feel it? That shift in the atmosphere. It's not just your freedom, it's their exhaustion. The enemy has nothing left to spend. You exhausted their arsenal by surviving. You broke their spirit by refusing to quit. You stripped them of their so-called power simply by standing. So, chosen ones, let this truth strengthen you. You are not only free, you are victorious. You didn't just survive their attacks, you emptied them out. You're still standing while they are spiritually bankrupt, running on fumes, gnawing on their own bitterness. That is your victory. That is your reward. And that is the undeniable proof that you cannot be buried. Chosen ones, this part will pierce deep. Your survival became their lifelong nightmare. They don't just remember trying to bury you, they remember failing. And that memory gnaws at them like rust corroding metal, eating away at their soul day after day. They replay it in their minds: the nights they schemed, the traps they built, the confidence they had when they whispered to themselves, "This time they won't get back up." But every time your name is mentioned, every time your presence surfaces, they are forced to relive the humiliation of watching you rise. It's not the act of betrayal that haunts them, It's the outcome. Nothing torments a coward more than the sight of the one they couldn't kill while still standing tall. Imagine a hunter who empties every bullet into the dark, convinced the prey is dead, only to see that same figure walking free at sunrise. That's what your enemies see every time they look at you. You are their failure walking. You are their defeat breathing. You are the living reminder that all their effort, all their energy, all their cruelty accomplished nothing. And here's the truth: on the surface they may still talk boldly. They may try to pretend the loss didn't matter, but underneath fear grips them. Fear of wasting more time. Fear of confirming again what they already know, that you cannot be broken. Even if they dare to try again, the memory of their last defeat paralyzes them before the first move. That memory is its own punishment. Chosen ones, you don't need revenge. You don't need to chase them. You don't even need to retaliate. Their minds are your greatest weapon now. Their conscience is the prison they cannot escape. While you've moved forward, healed and grown, they're stuck in replay mode, shackled by the reminder that their greatest efforts weren't enough. They tried to end you, and you became stronger. They plotted your destruction, and you became a testimony. So walk boldly in this truth. Your survival is louder than any revenge you could plan. Your resilience is the echo they cannot silence, and for the rest of their lives, your existence will haunt them like a shadow that never goes away. Chosen one, you are their lifelong nightmare. Chosen ones, let me seal this truth over you. You are now living in the spoils of the war they lost. The very fire that tried to erase you has crowned you. The very battlefield where they thought you would die has become the ground where your victory is displayed. For so long, survival was your rhythm. You were patching yourself up, bracing for the next strike, living in constant battle mode. But that season is over. The battlefield is behind you. The war they waged has ended, and you won. Do you feel the shift? The scars that once bled are no longer open wounds. They now stand as marks of authority. The weight you once dragged through every day is now evidence of your endurance. You were never chosen just to survive. You were chosen to demonstrate. Every crushing, every breaking, every fire you endured wasn't your undoing. It was your initiation into becoming untouchable. Imagine a soldier returning from war. He doesn't crawl back into the same trenches. He doesn't live in constant firefight anymore. His survival earns him honor, respect, and new assignments. That's you, chosen one. You don't circle the battlefield anymore. You don't live waiting for the next blow. You live in the spoils. You carry authority. No classroom could have taught you wisdom. No enemy can steal from you resilience carved into your very being by the flames that failed to destroy you. And here's the revelation: the fire can't touch you the same way again. You've already been crowned by it. The season that was meant to bury you became the soil of your coronation. The crown you now carry isn't made of gold. It's made of survival wisdom, endurance, and divine authority. No one can take it. No one can deny it. Your life itself is the proof. So from this moment forward, don't walk like a survivor, walk like royalty. You are not circling old battlefields anymore. You are living in the aftermath of victory. This is not recovery. This is a demonstration. Every step you take is a declaration: the war is over, the enemy has lost, and I am walking in the spoils. Chosen ones, never forget this. What was designed to bury you has crowned you. What was built to destroy you has elevated you. And from here on, your life is not just testimony. It is undeniable proof that you won the war they lost. Chosen ones, as we come to the end of this message, let me declare this over your life with clarity. The war is finished. The storm has passed. The cycle of suffering that once repeated endlessly has been shattered. The power of your enemies has been destroyed. You are free. You have been elevated. You have been crowned through fire. Look back at everything we've uncovered together. The chains that tried to bind you, rusted and broken. The contract of pain that claimed authority over your life, expired and shredded. The generational burdens that weighed down your bloodline paid in full through your endurance. The poison that was meant to kill you, it became your power. The final bullet they fired at you, I missed. You stood. You rose higher, and heaven itself has slammed the gavel on your case, ruling once and for all you are free. This is the truth the enemy doesn't want you to realize. Their strongest blow already failed. That means whatever comes next will always be weaker, always less effective, always powerless compared to what you've already survived. Yes, trials will still come, life will still test you, but you will never face that same nightmare again. The death blow already missed, the storm already lost its grip. And you chosen one are living proof that nothing formed against you can prosper. So I ask you, will you carry yourself as if you're still in recovery, or will you step boldly into the demonstration of your victory? Because from this day forward, your story is not about patching yourself up after battle. Your story is about showing the world what it looks like when someone walks out of fire crowned instead of crushed. You are not circling old battlefields anymore. You are walking in the spoils of the war they lost. Now, if this message resonates with your spirit, I want you to seal it with a declaration. Type the words, "It's done," in the comments, or drop the number 77 as a prophetic sign that your cycle has ended forever. Don't just listen, declare it. Share this message with someone who feels stuck, someone who needs to know that their storm too has an expiration date. Chosen ones, never forget, your survival is not luck, it is evidence. Evidence that you are chosen, evidence that you are unstoppable, evidence that your life has entered a new chapter. The war is over, the case is closed. And from this moment on, your life itself is the testimony proof that victory belongs to you.